Hi, this is Veronica from the Veronica James Show, and I'm coming to you today because today is October 28th, 2022, and this is my dad. Today makes 1 year that he has transitioned to the other realm, and um, I had a lot of stuff planned in my mind today to celebrate this day. But things just didn't happen that way today. So I'm just going to do what I'm just going to do. So it's about 7 o'clock. It's a little after 7:10 and 10 after 7. And so this is what it's on my heart right now to talk about my dad. And like I said, a year ago today, I was tripping because my dad had died. I got a call at about 8 o'clock that morning, and I was at my friend's house, at my boyfriend's house at the time, um, Willie D. Brown Jr. And um, we didn't stay together that long, but I can tell you this, that Willie came into my life to help me through that process because that man did just that. He helped me through the process of losing my dad. He was so good to me and so good for me. Um, and just really helped me through because he was really there for me, and I didn't know why he came and was the person he was for me then, and why he came in my life. But he, shortly after I got past the point of being able to function again after Daddy died, because he exited my life just like as soon as I was able to deal with being able to function again. He left, and that was why he was there, to help me to deal with losing my daddy, because my dad was my best friend, and he was really my best friend at the time, and really was there for me. And so we don't always know why people come into our lives, but he that's, I would say, that's why Willie came into my life then. That's why he became the person in my life he was at that time then. So I will say this, that like I said, I had all this stuff planned today. I even bought balloons and everything, and um I was just gonna have a big celebration today because I was not going to be sad and everything. And I haven't been sad today. I've shed a few tears because I miss him. I just miss my daddy, and it's okay. It's okay for me to miss him, because there's still gonna be days. There's still gonna be moments that I'm just gonna miss him. Um, um, I made a TikTok video today, I and it wasn't even that good of a TikTok video because, like, after a while, I just like threw something together, and it wasn't even my best work, but um, it was it was the best work that I could do at the moment, and so I put it together and put it out there. So let me just tell you a little things that some things that I wanted to share about my dad, Roosevelt James. Roosevelt, no middle name, James. the first thing that I want to share is that um, he was the father of six. He was married to my mom, and he was married to my mom for almost 60 years. Their anniversary will be October 30th. And so he died October 28th, and their anniversary is on October 30th. And they would have celebrated 60 years of being man and wife. He was incarcerated for 54, 53 of those years. Um, and his DC number was 029896. I think I learned that number by the time I was 10. But he was so much more than 029896. He was a father. And he was a good dad. He was a good dad. He was a disciplinarian, even from the walls of the prison. I became a teacher in 1994. In 1995, I was featured in the newspaper October 7th, 1996, 95, I think it was. Yeah, 95. And so this newspaper, this girl followed me for like a week, and I couldn't really explain that to my kids, so like they saw the article. It was like a 3-page fold. I was like above the fold and all this kind of stuff. So the kids were like really excited to see Miss James in the newspaper and all this kind of stuff. And they interviewed some of the kids and stuff like that. And anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is that I couldn't really explain to the kids how my dad was a disciplinarian from the prison. But then, like, I had this one little kid, his name was Charlie. And he said, "Oh, I know what you're talking about, Miss James." Because this little boy, his dad would call the school. Not all the time, but his dad would call on three-way to the school if Charlie was messing up. And so I had kids who could relate because their parents were also incarcerated. Through the years, I've had conversations with my students whose parents were also incarcerated. And I once remember later that when my uncle died, and it was my dad's last sibling to die, and my dad was feeling pretty bad, and I know that I went to see him because it was his last sibling to die, and I just wanted to make sure he was okay. And he was not. That was the first time, I think that was the first and the only time I saw my dad cry. And my dad said that he had no purpose, and why is it that God had kept him living when he was the bad kid, and that all of his other siblings were good people, and why was he the one to still be living, and that he should have let him die a long time ago when all of his other sisters and brothers were gone. And I was like, "Well, Daddy, no, you have a purpose. Even where you are, you have a purpose." And I told him that so many times that I had been able to witness to my students. I had been able to witness to my students and help my students because their parents were in prison, and that I could show them that, okay, you don't have to take a certain path because your parents are in prison, and that you don't have to allow people to make you out to be a bad person because your parent is in prison, or also because you don't have to allow people to make you out to be a bad person because your parent is in prison. Because I remember when I was in the eighth grade, I had a vice principal, assistant principal, to tell me that I was not gonna, that I too was gonna go to prison because my dad was in prison. And that set me on a different, that set me to not be ashamed of my dad because my dad was in prison. And before then, I was ashamed of him because I remember saying to other people that we were going out of town, not that we were going to visit my dad in prison. I would keep that a secret, you know. But then I began to say, if you are judging me because of the things that my dad has done, then you're the person who's messed up. I'm not messed up, because if you're missing out on me because of something that my dad has done, then you're the person who's missing out. I'm not missing out because I'm an awesome person, and that's your bad. And another thing I remember talking to my one of my students about is this kid was kind of messed up because he was like, I hate my dad. I heard him say that he hated his dad, and I took him aside and I was like, well, tell me why you hate your dad. And he was like, because he's in prison. And I was like, is that the only reason that you hate him, because he's in prison? Well, do you have anything to do with him being in prison? And he was like, well, no, he messed up. And I was like, yeah, he messed up because he's in prison, but you had nothing to do with him being there. So you have the authority to love your dad, and you can give him the authority to love you. So don't miss out on that love that you can share with your dad and that he can share with you, because people are going to talk. People are going to talk, and that's okay. Let them talk. They talked about Jesus. So let them talk. But you have the authority to love your dad. It's okay. And it doesn't even matter what your mom says. You know, it doesn't even matter. No, if your mom is saying something negative about your dad, she might be a little bit upset about things, how they worked out, or whatever. No, she shouldn't say anything bad about him around you, because at one time she loved him. I'm just saying. And so, like that, let this boy, this young man who was like 12, going on 13, to kind of find himself, to rewrite his own story. And so, like, I would tell my dad about these stories that I began to have, these conversations that I began to have with my own students. And I was like, see, Dad, I wouldn't have these stories. I wouldn't have these, I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't be able to feed these kids this stuff if I didn't have the stories that I had. See, I got this. This is my story. And if I didn't use these stories, because this is my story, but if I didn't use my story to help my kids that God has allowed my way, then I would just have it for nothing. And so that's the purpose right here. You know, so you do have a purpose. And so the stuff that you tell me that's going on with you here, it's still, you know, like, it's still good. And so when I come from visiting you and I tell my kids that I hang up the pictures that we take, and I let my students see that, yeah, my dad is still in prison. Yes, I'm a teacher. So you too can become somebody. Because they still believe that being a teacher is somebody, you know. And so I miss him. I miss him. I miss him sometimes more than other times. And you know, like I say, he was so much more than 029896. He was my dad, and he was one of my best friends, and that's what God had for me to tell you about today on the Veronica James Show. So thank you for watching my video, and come back again the next time. Bye.